The human mind, a labyrinth of desires, fears, and unconscious triggers, most navigated blindly, swayed by currents they don't perceive, making choices they believe are their own, yet are subtly guided by unseen forces. But what if you could see these currents? What if you could understand the hidden levers that control human action, the secret pathways to influence, the dark arts of persuasion? Welcome to the hidden depths of the mind, where we unearth the most potent tools of influence. This is not about gentle negotiation or building consensus through mutual understanding. This is about accessing the core programming of the human psyche, about understanding the vulnerabilities that lie beneath the surface, and about deploying strategies that compel others to act according to your will, often without them ever realizing the strings are being pulled. This is the dark psychology of influence, and today, you will learn its secrets. To truly persuade anyone, you must first understand the fundamental human need for certainty, for belonging, for significance, and for connection. Every action, every decision, every impulse stems from these deep-seated requirements. Dark psychology leverages these needs, twisting them, manipulating them, or exploiting their absence to create an irresistible pull towards a desired outcome. Let's begin with the principle of reciprocity, but viewed through a darker lens. It's not merely about giving to receive, it's about strategic gifting, creating an obligation that is disproportionate to the initial offering. Imagine a small, seemingly insignificant favor, a free sample, a minor concession, an unexpected compliment. This creates an immediate, almost primal urge within the recipient to return the gesture, often with something far greater. The human mind abhors imbalance, a debt, even a self-imposed one, gnaws at the subconscious until it is repaid. The dark practitioner understands that the initial gift doesn't have to be valuable, only perceived as a gesture of goodwill. It could be an act of listening intently, offering unsolicited advice that proves useful, or even just remembering a small detail about someone. These small deposits build a psychological bank account of obligation, ready to be withdrawn when a much larger favor is required. The key is to make the initial offering seem entirely altruistic, masking the underlying intent to create indebtedness. This is a subtle art. Overt generosity can arouse suspicion. The true master of reciprocity offers just enough to activate the compulsion, but not so much as to reveal the ulterior motive. It's about planting a seed of obligation that grows into a mighty tree of influence. This mechanism is so deeply ingrained that it often bypasses conscious thought, directly tapping into our social programming for fairness and balance. Next, we delve into commitment and consistency. Once a person commits to something verbally or in action, they face internal and external pressure to behave consistently with that commitment. This is a cornerstone of self-perception and social validation. The dark application of this principle involves engineering small, seemingly innocuous commitments that gradually escalate into larger, more significant ones. This is often known as the foot-in-the-door technique. Ask for a tiny favor, something almost impossible to refuse. A signature on a petition, a few minutes of their time, an agreement to a trivial statement. Once that initial commitment is made, their self-image shifts. They now see themselves as someone who supports this cause, or who is agreeable to this person. The next request, slightly larger, becomes harder to refuse because it would contradict their newly formed self-perception. To refuse would cause cognitive dissonance, an uncomfortable psychological state where beliefs and actions clash. The dark influencer doesn't demand, they guide. They gently nudge you down a path of small agreements, each one solidifying your commitment, until you find yourself having agreed to something far beyond what you initially intended, all in the name of consistency. This is how cults recruit, how manipulative sales tactics close deals, and how toxic relationships ensnare their victims. The genius lies in the incremental nature of the requests, each step feeling logical and consistent with the last, until escape becomes psychologically taxing. Then there is the formidable power of social proof. Humans are herd animals. We look to others for cues on how to think, feel, and act, especially in uncertain situations. If everyone else is doing it, it must be right. The darker side of social proof isn't just about showing popularity. It's about manufacturing it. It's about creating an illusion of consensus. This could involve strategically placed testimonials, fabricated reviews, or even simply implying that everyone knows or most people agree. In the digital age, this manifests as bought followers, fake engagement, or orchestrated online movements. The goal is to trigger the innate human desire to conform, to be part of the winning side, to avoid standing out as incorrect or ignorant. The darker twist is when this social proof is used to normalize questionable behavior or beliefs. If enough people appear to endorse something, even if that endorsement is engineered, it gains legitimacy. The target's critical thinking is bypassed by the sheer weight of perceived popular opinion. This is particularly potent when the source of the social proof appears similar to the target, amplifying the "if they can do it, so can I," or "if they believe it, it must be true" effect. The individual's capacity for independent judgment is eroded by the collective, even if that collective is a phantom. Authority is another profound lever. We are conditioned from childhood to respect and obey figures of authority. Doctors, teachers, police, experts, their words carry immense weight. The dark application of authority doesn't necessarily require genuine expertise. It requires the appearance of it. This can be achieved through titles, uniforms, credentials, or even just confident, declarative language. The manipulators understand that most people will not question perceived authority. They will defer, they will obey. The trick is to establish this authority quickly and convincingly. This could involve citing obscure statistics, referencing complex theories, or simply adopting an air of undeniable confidence and certainty. The less the target questions, the more effective the influence. This is why charlatans often use jargon, complex diagrams, or an imposing demeanor. It's not about conveying information. It's about creating an aura of unchallengeable knowledge. When combined with social proof, where others are seen deferring to this authority, its power becomes almost absolute. The target's critical faculties are suspended, replaced by a programmed obedience that can be terrifying in its effectiveness. It's a shortcut for the brain, a way to outsource decision-making to someone who supposedly knows better, even if that someone is a carefully constructed facade. The principle of **liking** seems benign, but in the hands of a dark psychologist it becomes a potent weapon. We are far more likely to be persuaded by people we like. The dark art here is to cultivate artificial rapport, to become instantly likable, not out of genuine affection, but as a strategic maneuver. This involves mirroring body language, adopting speech patterns, finding common ground, and offering copious, often insincere compliments. The goal is to bypass the target's defenses by creating a false sense of connection and trust. The manipulator studies their target, identifies their interests, values, and insecurities, and then reflects them back, creating an illusion of shared identity. They become the perfect friend, the understanding confidant, the soulmate. This manufactured liking allows the manipulator to slide past critical scrutiny, making their suggestions seem more appealing and their motives unquestionable. Once liked, the target becomes more open, more vulnerable, and far less likely to challenge the manipulator's intentions. This technique is particularly insidious because it preys on our fundamental human need for connection, twisting it into a tool for control. The warmth and familiarity become a cage, subtly closing around the target. Finally, we have ***scarcity***. The rarer something is, the more valuable it becomes. The dark application of scarcity isn't just about limited editions. It's about creating an artificial sense of urgency and fear of loss. Limited time offer, only a few left, this opportunity won't last. These phrases trigger a primal fear of missing out, a powerful psychological driver. The manipulator doesn't just present an offer, they present an expiring offer. They don't just show a product, they show a disappearing product. This forces the target into a quick decision, bypassing rational thought and engaging the emotional fear centers of the brain. The perceived loss of an opportunity becomes more painful than the potential gain of waiting or thinking critically. The dark psychologist understands that people are often more motivated by the fear of losing something they could have than by the prospect of gaining something new. This urgency can be manufactured not just around tangible items, but around opportunities, information, or even access to the manipulator themselves. By making themselves seem unavailable or difficult to reach, they increase their own perceived value and desirability, compelling others to seek their attention or approval more desperately. It transforms desire into a frantic chase against the clock, where the target's judgment is clouded by the impending sense of loss. Now let's ascend to even darker territories, exploring techniques that delve deeper into the psyche, designed to dismantle a person's reality and rebuild it according to the manipulator's design. Gaslighting is perhaps one of the most insidious forms of psychological manipulation. It involves systematically making a person question their own memory, perception, and sanity. The manipulator denies events that clearly happened, contradicts statements they previously made, or insists the victim imagined things. The goal is to erode the victim's trust in their own judgment, making them increasingly reliant on the manipulator's version of reality. This is not about winning an argument, it's about breaking down the target's cognitive framework. Over time, the victim begins to doubt their own senses, their own memories, their own sanity. They become confused, disoriented, and emotionally vulnerable. This makes them highly susceptible to the manipulator's influence, as they no longer trust their internal compass. The gaslighter asserts their reality as the absolute truth, and because the victim's self-trust has been undermined, they are more likely to accept it. This technique isolates the victim within their own mind, making them an easy target for further control. It's a slow, deliberate poisoning of self-perception, leaving the victim adrift in a sea of manufactured uncertainty. Emotional manipulation is a broad category, but its dark application focuses on exploiting specific potent emotions to control behavior. Fear, guilt, shame, and even love can be weaponized. Fear, creating a perceived threat, then offering themselves as the only solution or protector. This could be fear of social rejection, financial ruin, or physical harm. The manipulator positions themselves as the indispensable shield against this manufactured or exaggerated danger. guilt, inducing a sense of wrongdoing or moral indebtedness, then offering absolution contingent on compliance. This often involves playing the victim, highlighting sacrifices made, or subtly blaming the target for negative outcomes. Shame, attacking a person's self-worth or public image, then offering a path to redemption that aligns with the manipulator's agenda. This can be devastating, as shame is a deeply personal and painful emotion. Love or affection, also known as love bombing, overwhelming a target with excessive praise, attention, and affection early in a relationship. This creates an intense emotional bond, making the target feel uniquely special and valued. Once this bond is established, the manipulator can then withdraw affection, create distance, or introduce demands, knowing the target will strive to regain the initial love high. This creates a dependency, a desperate craving for the manipulator's validation. Narcissistic manipulation often involves a cycle of idealization, devaluation, and discard. Idealization: the manipulator puts the target on a pedestal, showering them with praise and making them feel like the most important person in the world. This creates a powerful emotional hook. Devaluation: once the target is hooked, the manipulator begins to subtly or overtly criticize, belittle, and undermine them. This erodes the target's self-esteem, making them feel worthless and dependent on the manipulator's approval. Discard: when the manipulator has extracted all they can or finds a new source of supply, they abruptly cut off the target, often with cruel indifference. This leaves the target devastated, confused, and desperate for resolution or understanding, making them vulnerable to hoovering the manipulator, drawing them back in with renewed idealization. This cycle systematically breaks down a person's sense of self and traps them in a loop of seeking validation from their abuser. Anchoring and framing are powerful cognitive biases. Anchoring: presenting an initial piece of information, the anchor that influences subsequent judgments, even if that anchor is irrelevant. In dark psychology, this means setting an extreme or deliberately skewed initial value or context to make a desired outcome seem more reasonable by comparison. For example, demanding something outrageous first, knowing it will be rejected, then compromising to the actual desired outcome, which now seems like a generous concession. Framing: presenting information in a way that elicits a specific interpretation regardless of the objective facts. This involves carefully choosing words, metaphors, and narratives to shape perception. A manipulator can frame a request as an opportunity rather than a demand, or a sacrifice as an investment. By controlling the frame, they control the narrative and therefore the emotional and rational response. This is often used in political discourse and advertising, but in dark psychology, it's used to manipulate individual decisions by controlling the lens through which reality is viewed. Pacing and leading comes from neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and is a sophisticated method of building rapport and then guiding a person's state or behavior. Pacing: matching another person's observable behaviors, body language, breathing rate, vocal tone, key phrases, and internal experiences such as their beliefs, values, and emotions. This creates an unconscious sense of familiarity, trust, and connection. The manipulator joins the target in their current state. Leading: once rapport is established through pacing, the manipulator subtly shifts their own state or behavior, and the target, unconsciously connected, tends to follow. If you pace someone's anxious breathing, then slowly deepen your own, they may unconsciously follow suit. If you pace their complaints, then subtly shift to discussing solutions, they may follow your lead. This is a highly effective way to guide someone's emotional state, beliefs, or actions without them realizing they are being influenced. It's like subtly adjusting a rudder to change the course of a ship, without the crew ever noticing the initial adjustments. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experienced by a person who holds contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or who performs an action that is contradictory to their beliefs. The dark psychologist understands this discomfort and uses it as a lever. They can deliberately create cognitive dissonance in a target, forcing them to resolve it in a way that benefits the manipulator. For instance, by subtly highlighting a contradiction between a person's stated values and their actions, the manipulator can create discomfort. To alleviate this, the target will either change their actions to align with their values, or more commonly, change their values or beliefs to justify their actions. The manipulator nudges them towards the latter, guiding them to adopt beliefs that serve the manipulator's agenda, all in the name of internal consistency. This is how people come to rationalize abusive relationships or questionable political ideologies. They were subtly pushed into a position where changing their internal beliefs was less painful than confronting the contradiction. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism where individuals unconsciously attribute their own undesirable thoughts, feelings, or traits to another person. In dark psychology, this is weaponized. The manipulator blames the target for their own flaws, misdeeds, or negative emotions. Instead of saying "I am angry," they say "you are making me angry." Instead of confronting their own insecurity, they accuse the target of being insecure. This not only deflects responsibility, but also makes the target feel guilty or responsible for the manipulator's feelings, creating a sense of obligation to soothe or fix the manipulator. It's a powerful way to shift blame, avoid accountability, and make the target carry the emotional burden of the manipulator. Triangulation is a manipulative tactic where a third party is brought into a dynamic between two people, often to create division, jealousy, or to gain control. The manipulator might compare the target unfavorably to another person, real or imagined, to make the target feel insecure and strive for the manipulator's approval. They might spread rumors or gossip between two people to create conflict, then position themselves as the trusted confidant to both, gaining information and control. This technique thrives on division and insecurity, turning relationships into a complex web where the manipulator sits at the center, pulling the strings. It prevents direct communication and resolution, keeping people isolated and dependent on the manipulator for information or validation. Isolation is a fundamental tool in the dark psychological arsenal. By gradually isolating a target from their support network, friends, family, colleagues, the manipulator makes them increasingly dependent. This can be achieved through subtle criticisms of the target's loved ones, creating wedges, demanding excessive time, or fabricating stories to alienate the target from others. As the target's world shrinks, the manipulator becomes their sole source of validation, information, and emotional support. This creates an echo chamber where the manipulator's narrative becomes the only reality, and the target loses external perspectives that might challenge the manipulation. This dependency makes the target highly vulnerable and compliant, as their entire sense of self and security becomes tied to the manipulator. Finally, the master of dark influence constantly seeks to exploit vulnerabilities. Every human being has insecurities, unfulfilled desires, fears, and unmet needs. The dark psychologist makes it their mission to identify these cracks in the armor. They listen intently, observe keenly, and probe subtly to uncover these sensitive areas. Insecurities. If someone is insecure about their intelligence, the manipulator might subtly praise their intellect while subtly undermining their judgment on specific issues, creating a dependency. Unfulfilled desires. If someone deeply desires success, love, or recognition, the manipulator might position themselves as the gateway to achieving these desires, even if they have no intention or ability to deliver. They dangle the carrot, keeping the target perpetually hopeful and compliant. Fears. If someone fears loneliness, failure, or poverty, the manipulator can play on these fears, presenting themselves as the only protection against these dreaded outcomes. Unmet needs. If someone has an unmet need for validation, belonging, or control, the manipulator can temporarily fulfill these needs, creating a deep sense of gratitude and loyalty, only to withdraw it later to exert control. The exploitation of vulnerabilities is the ultimate weapon because it bypasses logic and appeals directly to the raw emotional core of a person. It's about finding the open wound and either pouring salt into it to motivate action or offering a temporary balm to gain trust and control. To wield these techniques effectively, one must cultivate a particular mindset. It is a mindset characterized by a lack of genuine empathy, replaced by a strategic understanding of human emotions as tools. The focus shifts from connection to outcome, from mutual benefit to singular advantage. It requires patience, keen observation, and the ability to detach emotionally from the target's reactions. The effective dark influencer is a master of observation. They read body language, micro-expressions, and vocal inflections not as signs of emotional connection, but as data points revealing inner states and vulnerabilities. A slight hesitation, a shift in gaze, a change in breathing, these are all clues to be processed and leveraged. They understand that communication is only partly verbal. The nonverbal cues often betray deeper truths and unspoken desires. They also possess a profound understanding of human needs and weaknesses. They know that people crave certainty in an uncertain world, that they desire validation, and that they fear rejection and loss. They understand the fundamental human inclination to avoid pain and seek pleasure, and how to manipulate these drivers. They recognize the cognitive biases that lead people astray, and they exploit them relentlessly. This is not a mindset of cruelty for cruelty's sake, but one of calculated effectiveness. It is the mindset of a chess master, always several moves ahead, anticipating reactions and planning counter moves. The pieces on the board are human beings, and their psychological levers are the tools of the game. Now, a word of caution. Understanding these mechanisms is a double-edged sword. To recognize the dark psychology of influence is to gain immense power, but with great power comes the potential for profound harm. The techniques discussed are potent. They can break down defenses, erode self-worth, and leave lasting psychological scars. While this knowledge equips you to persuade, it also equips you to recognize when these tactics are being used against you. It provides a shield as much as it provides a sword. The ability to persuade anyone easily, as the title suggests, does not come from magical incantations or mystical powers. It comes from a deep, unflinching understanding of the human operating system, its vulnerabilities, its defaults, and its hidden programming. It comes from the willingness to look beyond surface interactions and see the intricate web of psychological triggers that govern us all. This journey into the dark psychology of influence is not for the faint of heart. It reveals truths that are often uncomfortable, exposing the raw, unvarnished mechanics of human control. But for those who dare to look, for those who seek to understand the levers of power, the secrets of persuasion are now laid bare. The choice of how to use this knowledge, to build or to break, to empower or to control, rests entirely with you. If these insights into the hidden workings of the mind have illuminated pathways you didn't know existed, consider subscribing to delve deeper into the mysteries of psychology and influence. Your journey into understanding the mind has only just begun.